You are now tuned in to My Skin is My Sin on Blog Talk Radio. From goons to gods, we welcome everyone. We only have one rule, and that's be respectful. You are now tuned in to My Skin is My Sin on Blog Talk Radio. Goons to gods, we welcome everyone. We only have one rule, and that's be respectful.
Holla at us next week, man.
No doubt, man, and definitely shout out to the family, liberationmindedmedia.net. That is Black Eye Stand, Do the Knowledge Radio, The Rundown with Renee, and My Skin is My Sin. Oh, and don't forget to share the show, man. If you check it out today, or if you check it out next week, or if you check it out in 1,000 years, and if you are that motherfucker that digs us up in 1,000 years, you are the most phenomenal individual to ever walk the galaxy for digging up this greatness and still share our shit, man. Shout out to you. Don't forget to check out the websites, emeraldshell.com, designsbymonet.com, and myskinismysin.net.
You, so don't sweat me. And I can't make you like me, but you will respect me. I'm not alone. I got my ancestors with me. The man out to get me, I'm gone. Fucking with me. What did I do to you? You gon' make me pull this tool on you. Might even put some voodoo on you. If you keep fucking with me. To the new ancestors, all around and above us, they still can't touch us. Ku Clan Kluxus. Can't wait till Mother Nature wipe this bitch out. Better yet, I can't wait to wake up a nation when this shit drop. Been pissed off since they put me on them ships and I was shipped off. Been lied to, history been stolen, we all been ripped off, but it's coming back to me. All the knowledge come through me. Sun God, I'm in Ra, the whole world look up to me. The whole world got it twisted, except the indigo children. Most of my niggas so fucked up when I spit this shit they won't listen. When I spit this shit they don't hear me. I come in peace but they fear me. My black women been scorned. You know that hell has no fury. You know your time coming, don't you? You know we waking up faster. Don't let them feed you that Bible. No disrespect to your pastor, no disrespect to your grandma. You know they stuck in their ways. Let you tell us since the beginning of time we was nothing but slaves. I shade a Huey P. Newton, I shade a Tupac Shakur, I shade all the new ancestors. Please come run through Detroit. Please come run through this country. Please help me run through this money. Please hit me with my abundance so I can show the world something. Feel like I owe the world something. I feel this shit in my bones. Got it straight from the ancestors and put this shit in a song. Sandra Bland was her name. You couldn't fathom my pain. I can name 1,000 more ancestors, but there's no need to explain. I'll never die. I ain't fucking with you, so don't sweat me. And I can't make you like me, but you will respect me. I'm not alone. I got my ancestors with me. The man out to get me, I'm gone. It ain't no way, it ain't no way, it ain't no way. You keep fucking with me. What did I do to you? You gon' make me pull this tool on you. Might even put some voodoo on you. If you
keep fucking with me.
I wonder if all these niggas know when they pour out a little liquor, they pouring libations. For all my people of African descent, our ancestors are the focus of deep respect. Say Ashe after the name. Say Ashe after the name. Sandra Bland, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, Sean Bell. I can name so many more new ancestors we pay deep respect. Joyce Finn, Brandon Bryant, Tupac Shakur, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass, Afeni Shakur, Nina Simone, Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, James Baldwin, Dr. Saban, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson. They don't have to be deceased, we still pay respect. Dick Gregory, Dr. Phil Valentine, Dr. Africa, Dr. Claude Anderson, Bobby Hemmett. To the hundreds of thousands more, we say Ashe.
Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Thandaza, 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 uthandaza. Yeah, I wish you were here. Yeah, I wish you was here. Yeah, I know it's been long, but it feel like it's now. I made it feel like it's now, and this feeling is so bad. And I thought I'm doing good, and man, I thought I'm doing good when you left me alone. And now I'm past the shuma, yeah. Unkulunkulu wutatia. I'm all alone in my room. I just switch out the light. I fuck up and light up the blind. Man, I wanna get high until I reach for the stars, until I shine like a star. I stay on my grind. Mama gave me all the heart, my father gave me all the look. And I know Tandazo, 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 Tandazo. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Thandaza, 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 uthandaza.
Thandaza lova, akukho lula ukuhlala usopa. Ngiyaza akukho lula impilo nzima. Thandaza lova, akukho lula ukuhlala usopa. Ngiyaza akukho lula impilo nzima.
I was starting to break down. I was starting to break down. I'ma need me up and down. Zinto zonke ziyape. I stay on my grind, my nigga, and I know it's hard, my nigga. I pull out my sauce, my nigga, and I know the game, my nigga. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo mawutholithuba ungalinge. Uthandaze njalo
And you are back for another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you by My Skin Is My Sin. And I am Jobs, and I want to welcome Brother Shaq to the show. We got a real phenomenal topic today, a much needed topic, and unfortunately a not discussed enough topic. And we're talking about rape today. And the brother, and let me welcome you to the show, man. How you doing?
Fantastic, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. It's our honor and privilege. How's your family, man? You know, before we get started.
Oh, everyone is well on this end, man. Thank you for asking, and hopefully yours too.
Well, we getting there, man. We're getting there.
Yeah, you're right, man.
Been a rough month or two.
Yeah, well, we all have had that, definitely.
Man, tell me about it.
Definitely.
So let's get into it, bro. What makes a brother? Not too many men really want to talk about rape, let alone write a book about it. What makes a brother want to do that?
Well, this brother, at least I can tell you how I got here. I had a lot of experience with the impact of sexual violation through, my mother, being raised by my mother, who was a sexual abuse survivor, domestic abuse survivor. And those are the things that shaped my early perspectives about black women and my worldview and all those kinds of things. Of course, at the time, in the growing up part of it, I did not know or understand what that was about. And so it was later on when I realized how that had, impacted me directly, with her ability to parent and have healthy relationships with people. Yeah. So that was the genesis of it. So it's had an impact on me lifelong. And then, the young women, the young ladies, and of course young women that I was encountering, engaging with, were also seemingly more often than not sexual abuse survivors. And of course that had significant bearing and impact on our relationships and ability to try to have healthy relationships. And I've been married to 3 black women, and they were all survivors of sexual abuse. And there again, there was a major part of
that's interesting
of how we struggled. So that was my personal experience with that. Of course, and then as I got older and doing the work, I learned more statistical data that said that I didn't have a unique experience. And so that was the beginning.
So is it safe to say that more often than not, children of rape survivors can seek out rape survivors?
Well, I guess energetically there's something in that's familiar.
Okay.
But without having that common language or even that lens, it's the phenomenon really of the behaviors, and oftentimes we do for better or for worse, we are drawn energetically to familiar, and so men will often connect with women who remind them of their mothers, regardless of the quality of that relationship. They will remind them, and some of the behavioral characteristics that are now pathologized are rooted in those sexual violations and that level of dehumanizing that oftentimes when we talk about a particular rape or a particular sexual assault, those of us who've not experienced that look at it as an incident. It was an incident that occurred, but it actually does change the trajectory for folks in some kind of a way, and it varies slightly from person to person, but there are some very similar kinds of things that happen in the way folks tend to engage thereafter.
I can only imagine, man. I can only imagine, and that's got to be a lot of pain to I mean, like, I can't even begin to imagine the pain of being raped, But when you take on the task of writing about it, there's a sense of taking on that energy as well, and it's really tough to hear all that pain and all that hurt. Like does that live with you? How do you deal with that?
Well, and so the book was written because a lot of the work that, what really inspired the physical book to take place was my former wife and I. She's actually on the cover. Her image is on the cover of the book. When we still work together, we partner with True Love Movement, where we offer mental health services that are specifically formulated for, Black people responding to racism, white supremacy, and that's been going on since about 2002, and it has evolved and over time.
And give me 1 second. I got somebody that's calling in. I'm not gonna take callers just yet. Just give us about 5 minutes. The number is 9571. I'm not sure who that is, but please just give us about 5 minutes, and then we'll take some callers. And if you do want to share, you do not have to show your face. You call up anonymously, but the number is 216-539-0659. I will put that both in the comment section on Facebook and on YouTube. But I just wanted to get a little insight on Brother Shaq before we take any calls. So I do apologize for that one. And my bad, bro. I forgot to say that in the beginning.
Oh, no. I mean, I know people want to share. They may have questions and so forth. And so I'll just kind of speed that part of it up. Our relationship, I was a very, and still am, very good Black man, well-intended Black man, fairly well educated and learned Black man, former street cat Black man, just a Renaissance kind of a Black man. So, I really thought that I knew some things. And over the course of our relationship, particularly early on, she would say to me things like, her and I go back 30 years, but we were married for almost a decade. But she says, she'd say, King, that's patriarchy. And I said, no, that's not patriarchy. You completely misunderstand. And she'd say, well, and she would try to elaborate, but I would dismiss it. And, because I know what patriarchy is. And, I was so clear that if it were patriarchy, I would tell her it was patriarchy. This is where I was. And so that would happen, sporadically. Now, we didn't argue. We never had that kind of a thing, but I would just say something that was a virtue or value of mine that reflected my worldview, but it was rooted in, my experience that I projected as the experience. And I wasn't really interested in hearing any rebuttal from that. And, that went on until it eventually stopped. And it didn't stop because I got better. She just got tired of saying it. Wow. And so talk about a little bit of an unraveling or an underlying thing that can happen in an otherwise very healthy and productive relationship. And so as I continued to work with specifically Black men and boys, I'm the director of Black men and boys programming. She works with specifically Black women and girls. And we also work with couples, and, we still do this together, but the brothers, we were having this experience, and for many Black men, most Black men, I've not encountered a Black man yet that didn't come to me wanting to work on relationships. That's what we're relational people. And so as I was listening to brothers talk to me and listening to their stories, and brothers locally, but also brothers all over the country, we were all saying the same thing. And so then I got to understanding, wait a minute, this is more of a cultural phenomenon here. This, because everybody's so clear and so sure, but they're still having this adverse impact in their experiences. So what is it? And, culture is a way of life. So as I was listening and looking, deeply introspectively with my own self and working with these brothers, what I understood was that there was a common theme of religion, athletics, politics, and entertainment. These lenses from which they would speak about things that shape their worldview. These things, reaffirm the other things. And so it started off as a workshop and being able for us to kind of talk about these things just as Black men, and then we included Black women in there. And like on the call tonight, there'll be folks who will share their stories. And so that was incorporated into the workshop. And so then it became a book after about 6 years of this kind of work. It became an actual book because I was absolutely certain of it. And it took so long because I wanted to do this intellectual, academic kind of a thing that would keep me distant from it, me personally distant from it. And I can just be a brother who was talking about a thing that was occurring without any feeling. Well, it didn't. The book worked on me. That's why it took 6 years for me to actually, produce it. It actually came out on, 5 months today on Black Love Day, February 13th. So it's been out and it's been doing really well. It's, all over the country, and there are couples reading it, families are reading it, together, and their sons and mothers reading it together, and there's church leadership groups and just all kind of things. But we center the historic relationship that Black women and girls, women and girls who are today politically designated as Black. We go back and do the whole historical account on. We look at the lens, their cultural experience through the lenses of religion, athletics, politics, and entertainment, and we look at how unwittingly and unintentionally Black men oftentimes compound that particular unique oppression. Again, not because we intend to, but we don't know what we don't know. And much of this we've never had to consider because of our very limited, partial, conditional, and provisional membership in the white man's patriarchal fraternity. So that's essentially what the book deals very squarely with, and we can have it's intended to facilitate this kind of a conversation so we can talk about not simply the heinous act of the sexual assault, but what is the group psychology that occurred before the sexual assault that told us that this was the thing to do, because this Black woman was invisibilized, she was insignificant, she was objectified, she was not human. And that's what has to be into our psyche that tells us it's okay to do this. So there's not been a lot of attention with the why. And so this book builds an analysis around the why that gets us up to and through that. And that's the purpose and functionality of the book.
So the book is geared towards men more so then?
Well, no. It's really I'm a lover of Black people, and I have an allegiance to Black people. So this book is written for Black people. Okay. It's not genderized in that. The earlier iteration was thinking that Black men need something, Black men need to have something, and Black men are broken and Black men are this, and it's like, well, that's not really what's going on. But there's this notion in the book talks about it, this ideology around opposites, that you'll say, well, men and women are opposite sexes, right? That's the consensus. Right. But that's not true. Men and women are complementary sexes. That's the difference. Halves of the same whole. When you have an opposite, you have an opposition, you have an opposer, you have somebody on the other end of something. And so there's an entire the concept of, or the lens of athletics offers Black men a problem solving or conflict resolution technology in the way of athletics, where your opposition is your enemy, so you can't cooperate with your enemy. You can't collaborate with your enemy. Your enemy is your competition, and you are charged with smashing the competition, forcing the competition into submission, into your will. So again, this is part of the psychological programming, and it has an origin. It has an origin, and so the book looks at that so that as well-intended good Black men, we can acknowledge with some introspection ways that we've been complicit unwittingly, but really, really peel back what's that all about? Where did that come from? As opposed to simply saying, well, hey, don't do that or don't be like that. There's a reason why we're like that, and there's a reason why this is part of the groupthink or the consensus around things. And so the book really looks at that, and therefore, it's a very good couples book. They're co-parents who are reading it. This is really for all manner of Black people, and I'm happy that many Black households are reading it together as families and family units.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. That's a beautiful thing right there. So Let me ask you this though: what was the biggest, the easiest to solve? Why?
The easiest to solve why was the mirror. Why do I do these things? So having to really look at myself and of course accept the responsibility for, actions, which, I've not raped or violated anyone, not that, but see, there's so many things that happen beyond that, prior to that are equally as impactful, but seemingly not as egregious. And really, I'm sure you're familiar with the term, like shadow work. And when you're doing shadow work and you're looking at these things you desire and the things that you want to do and really interrogating, where does that come from in me? You're not judging it. You're just locating, where does this come from in me? Like, where did this, how much of this is integrated into my identity and my image, my self-image, and in the ways in which I've been collectivized around it, and what's the impact that has, in the world, but particularly with, say, Black women. Like, what are the things that Black women aren't saying because they're afraid to say it because of experiences that they've had? What are those things about? And then how am I complicit? How am I just being nice and being, friendly? And how much of that is just not really real because I want people to think well of me? What's my real thoughts about Black women and what they're saying and like that level of, that was the quote unquote easiest because I had the direct access to 24 hours a day. Yeah. But in doing that work, and that work is also ongoing, but in doing that, it humanized me, because that's the thing, racism, white supremacy dehumanizes all people. So, I've been dehumanized too. And so I have to consider, what does the hollowness of my humanity, how does that present in my behaviors, which I'm unaware,
I don't think
so I would say that would be well, let me tell you, doing this kind of work will take you to some places you've not seen before. So you're going to, it will give you a,
you know what, though, man? And just in preparing for the show, bro, and just thinking about things like just to, especially for men, growing up, like, we normalize a lot of fucked up ass shit. Like if dude is 20 years old and slaps the shit out of his woman, we may not like it, but we're not about to call the police, and we'll still be cool with that dude. And in still being cool with that dude, you are normalizing some fucked up behavior. We've seen dudes go too far at a party and not say shit.
Right. And so that's the thing, though. See, that's the thing I was interested in. What is happening inside of us? What do we already feel? What have we already made up our minds about the worth and value, the human worth and the human value and the humanity of the women that we're witnessing that happen to? What if we already decided that, well, she was running her mouth too damn much, or she shouldn't have been playing with that man like that, or like what are those things? Because see, we can do that and not engage with it and say, well, I mean, look, I ain't like that. I wouldn't do no shit like that. And we can say we're different than he.
Yeah, we're not.
That kind of deal with. We're not. That deals with that in the good man syndrome chapter. Now, the thing about it is, the reason why that ends up being an empty rebuttal is because the women, the sisters, know that we the same dude. See, they know we're offended if they would try to confront us about something like that, because we're focused on, well, our actions. Well, I didn't do that. I wouldn't do anything. I've never done anything like that. And we want to say that we're different. She's saying, but we were complicit in it, and we had something in us told us that wasn't the right thing to do. So much of the frustration of good, well-intended Black men who are not actively engaging in violence against Black women, much of the rebuttal is that it's an inconvenience because I did not do that. But we also have a guilty conscience about it. That's why we're offended many times or upset that we even got to talk about something we did not do, and would rather make the brother who did the thing the focus of the conversation, which still even invisibilizes the impact of what the brother did on the particular sister. So that's the invisibilization, the historical invisibilization of black women that you and I didn't begin, but it has a 400-year trajectory. So, and it's part of our normative culture. It's a way of life. It's a way that we live that all people are socialized around. It's just that because we are relational people, it seems that we're in closest proximity, to black women, and we are also the ones that could reduce some of the oppression because of that relationship.
Wow, and I remember like when a couple of years ago we did a show on sexual assault, and the consistent thing. Well, first off, the relationship to the victims is generally they know the person prior to the assault.
Right.
Right. I think it was like 23% or 24% that it's just a complete stranger. And the responses of families, especially in our community, is just tragic. And I'm not throwing mine up under the bus or anybody else's, but way too often we don't say anything about the offender. We just avoid that offender family-wise, but we still allow this person to roam the streets, knowing that they have already proven how they are as a human being, and that they will rape somebody.
Right.
And we just, we tell everybody in the family, don't go near Uncle so-and-so.
Right.
But we don't tell everybody in the community, and Uncle so-and-so, next thing you know, he didn't rape 10 people.
Right. Why do you think that is, though? Because that's a familiar story, and this is what I was saying. This is one of the reasons why the book was able to even be produced, is because, you and I didn't grow up together, and our families may not have any direct connection, but I'm very familiar with that kind of a thinking or that kind of a family situation, a family dynamic, and I'm sure a lot of the callers and people listening are as well. So this is a cultural thing, but why do you think that is?
I think that black folks take ownership of all the warts of everybody in the family.
Okay.
And I think we do that a lot more than other cultures, especially in this country. And so when one person does something completely abhorrent, there's a part of us that don't want to be connected to that person. So in not saying anything, it's like we can forget that wart, so to speak, that is on us too. If that makes sense, But
that does.
And it was like your grandparents, especially like my grandparents' generation. The women, like saying a woman was raped was pointless. Damn near. And I think that caused them to put a lot of skeletons in the closet. Not necessarily because they wanted to, but it was just like, what's the fucking point? You'll be blamed for getting raped as a woman a couple generations ago.
Yeah.
So if a little girl got raped by her uncle, what did you have on? Why were you up at midnight?
That is correct.
So it's like I don't know, like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. That's the best I can come up with.
No. I mean, that's a great answer. I mean, it's a great and it's a thoughtful answer, and it's probably, the way most of us would see it. And so that's really the impetus for writing the book, because what is it that says to us? We ask her what she had on. We interrogate her, like, what is it that invisibilizes the person who did that to her? It's something in us, and it's not our intellect. It's not in all our cognition. So just for a little bit of history, when you're talking about the black families and the formation of black families and survival units, on the plantation, there was a customary thing where an enslaved African male would tend to marry an enslaved African female from another plantation. That was part of the custom because they could be together on Sundays.
Okay.
One up the road. Do you know why that was the custom?
I don't.
That was a custom because the enslaved African male did not want to witness his wife being violated by the slave master, which was also a very common practice.
Yeah.
So his solution was to marry an enslaved African female on a different plantation.
Wow.
Okay? Now, you understand that story, right?
Yeah, I get it. I get exactly
now,
why.
Do you understand all of it, though?
I mean, what it does is it emasculates the man completely. And it allows the man to blame the woman for what's happening to her because he disassociates himself. That he removes his requirement to protect her from the situation. And in doing that, it completely puts all the blame on her. Like you were over there getting raped by massa. Why the fuck you letting him do that?
Right.
So,
and,
wow, that's crazy.
But check this out. And so, if you'll notice, you were 100% right on what you said, but there's more. It was the part that you didn't say, which is why I wrote the book. So the first thing that you saw was how it impacted the enslaved African male, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was no mention of how it actually impacted the enslaved African woman who was suffering from the rape. She wasn't part of the evaluation of the circumstance. Now, this is not a critique from me to you, but what this does is it shows you the ways in which you're co-opted into maintaining the oppression because our focus goes on to how this man is responding to what he's forced to witness without any human recognition to the person who's actually being physically violated at the time. And so in much the same way that you were able to assess that situation is the same way that the enslaved African male on the plantation did. So the history of invisibilizing the impact of sexual violation on black women is that old.
Wow.
So that's why when something happens, we say, well, what did you have on? We immediately deal with her because some kind of way she brought this on herself because we cannot say that someone did something to her. So we have to find a way to blame her for her experience. So then we don't look at, well, what's the impact of that? So that means she's not going to tell anybody because, like you said earlier, ain't nothing going to be done about it. So the statistical data that's available is of no real reflection on what actually occurs because the culture says ain't nobody going to do nothing about it. You see what I'm saying? And can't nobody really do nothing about it. So what essentially we say to black women and girls, this is just part of your normal experience, that you just have to experience this. And that's just part of it. So the best you can do is not be nowhere you ain't supposed to be, not wear nothing you ain't supposed to. So we spend our time schooling her on how to keep herself out of harm's way, never really dealing with who's causing the harm. They're invisible to us. Now, that's not an indictment on our people. That comes with the terrorism of racism, white supremacy, in much the same way that our critique for other black people is generally how well they're handling or coping with their oppression. That's our critique. Not the fact that we're in an oppressive situation, but we're telling them to be strong or to be whatever it is we're saying to them and not ever confronting. That's what dehumanization does. This is the way dehumanization displays itself in behavioral manifestations. So see that's less understood. Yeah, we can talk about the sexual violation, the event, and that was wrong and he shouldn't have done it. And we can do that, but beyond that, we're not very much so connected with the groupthink, the psychology around all the things that occurred, inside the psyche of the perpetrator long before that violation took place.
Wow. Man, you definitely dropped some gems on me today. And yeah, if you do want to call back up, it's 216-539-0659. I'm not sure how long we got the Brother Shaq on. At least an hour, hopefully. I think it's been an hour already.
You got me. I cleared my evening, brother.
Oh, okay, good. All right, yeah, we get at least an hour in. And if you do want to call up, it is absolutely anonymous. I'm not going to mention your whole phone number. I'll mention the last 4 digits, and that's it. If you want to put your video up, you can do that, but it's not a requirement, and it's not my control. It is completely yours. Just so people know that. And it's just for me, like, having daughters. I've got 3 daughters, and that's it. I don't want to say that's it, but this hits home because this is something, I never wanted one of my daughters to have to come to me and saying, that they were assaulted, because I lose my shit, and I would be clueless as to really how to help them.
Right.
So if somebody is in that position, a father, let's say, such as myself, what's the best course of action for them to help their daughter?
Well, I think the first thing that has to be acknowledged, if that is said, is that we need to listen to and believe Black women and girls. That's the first thing. That we need to listen to and believe Black women and girls. Okay. And I need to stress that because there again, part of the socialization around Black women and girls is that they're deceitful, they're lying, they're conniving, they're dishonest, they're trying to manipulate men. They're trying, like, that's, and I'm not saying that that's never happened and no one has had that experience, but I'm also saying, where does that common understanding come from? Because see, that's what it ends up being. That's the culture. It ends up being a cultural norm. That's just how Black women are. That comes from a particular place. And, you got to consider that in the history of America, not one Black woman or one Black man ever defined themselves for themselves and had everyone else accept that definition. We are defined by the people who impose the oppression on us. So this is not real self-determination of Coochie Chakalia that any of us are experiencing under oppression. So that means whatever it is that we've come to learn about ourselves has been an observation of our behaviors responding to this oppression. And of course, that takes many, many forms. But there are some common sort of themes. And so the other thing that I can tell you as a father who also has daughters, right? The first thing, like I said, you said, man, I'll lose my shit. But the first person to tend to is the person who has been violated. That is the very first person to tend to in whatever tending to looks like. And so even with our good intentions of, responding after the fact, oftentimes there's still our ignorance of the human being that suffered at the hands of the perpetrator. And the reason we do that is because even in those moments, their main value that we see is rooted in their relationship to us. Yeah.
And somebody has violated my child.
Us. Yeah. Again, because see, that you may not be as incensed if it were my child. Exactly. Because that's because, again, Black women and girls are possessions. This is part of the culture. They exist in a very transactional way. That's what we say, my daughter, my wife, my mother. See, all of those people are special, and they're special because they're mine. They're special because they belong to me. Now, that means that not my daughter, not my wife, not my mother. Well, that's a different kind of a thing. Now, really and truly, of course, from a human standpoint, it is not. But that is, again, as black men, through our socialization and mimicking of the white dominating culture, male patriarchal fraternal worldview, we are, in possession of. So we are offended because we have been violated, essentially. And so whoever the perpetrator is, we're more concerned of making sure that they pay right here and right now because they have essentially violated us too. Yeah. And we don't even see how we invisibilize the very people who are suffering. But the reason we do that, again, is not because we're bad people. We have already been thoroughly socialized through the lens of religion, athletics, politics, and entertainment, that they're not whole, singular human beings. They only exist in a very transactional and a relational situation to black men. You think about a daughter. What happens with the daughter? The daughter is literally given away by her father to her husband. That's a transaction.
Yeah.
That's a transaction.
Never thought about it that way, too. Now I feel bad. I've been
but
wanting
I'm
to do
saying
that my whole life.
Now
I feel bad.
That's the nature. And guess what? So think about this, because you and I have never been black women or black girls, right? That's like their ultimate achievement in life, to be given away by your father to your husband, to your new owner. This is their normative experience. So you see how we can do it, and we can hold it up as a value and a virtue, and stick our chest out about our involvement in that transaction, and never even consider the actual human being who's most affected.
Wow.
And that happens in the case of religion, particularly with the imposition of Christianity, throughout the athletic world, throughout the political realm, throughout the entertainment industry. It's not that it's a different thing. It's essentially the same thing, but it can only occur because of what we've already been conditioned to believe about black women and girls, and the invisibilization that's part of their normative experience. This is just what it is for them,
Wow, man. Like, nah, I mean, and it all makes sense, like.
Yeah.
I've just.
I haven't offered an opinion yet.
Yeah, I have to. There's some shit I need to work on for me. Like I wasn't looking at it like that. Like, nah, I don't want to give her away. I got to come of a walk her down the aisle, and I'll just leave it at that. Like. Because it does make sense.
Right.
It's and it I don't ever want my daughters to feel that their father devalued them in any way, shape, fashion, or form.
Right. But they could, and not because you intended to.
Right.
See, I mean, there's a good brother I remember I organized with, and fantastic brother, brilliant, really good, kind human being. And I'll never forget the story that he talked about with one of his daughters. His daughter was about 16. And he said they was having lunch, and he was joking with her. And he said, nah, see, look what I do for you. I'm a good dad. I take whatever you want. And she says, you really think so? And he said he sat back in his thing like, what? Because he's searching his mind like, what have I done? He started saying all the things he'd always done for her and how he was always there for him, blah, blah, blah. And these were all true things. But you know what she said to him? She said, you don't even know me. And you know what he said? Nothing. Because he didn't. His daughter was schooling him that all of these things that you've been doing for you. You've been doing for you so that you can feel good about yourself, so that you can also get rewarded as the kind of man, because we all know there ain't shit men that don't do nothing. So you get to be a man that, I take care of my
You're a good man.
Like there's a,
you
that's why I have a chapter called the Good Man Syndrome. Right. Yeah, I'm clear about that. So, but you see how all of that was all his world. That had nothing to do with what his daughter actually was thinking or what she was experiencing with him. And so she just happened to say that on that day, but it didn't start on that day. So just consider how wrong we are most of the time about the effectiveness of what we're really doing that black women don't ever say any, black women or girls don't ever say anything about because we can't hear them because it is them. So long as we get to say I have good intentions and I'm doing better than that Negro that ain't never did nothing for his child, we get to say, well, I'm a good black man. So then when somebody comes to us with this whole rape culture thing, we say, oh, no, that ain't for me. That's for them other dudes that be doing foul shit. That ain't me. Because, see, me, I take care of my children. I take care of my woman. I take care of my, all of that kind of stuff. And so then we live in a society that's why I talk about us having a limited, partial, provisional, and conditional membership in the white man's patriarchal fraternity, so long as we keep that arrangement in place. That's what I mean by that. We're rewarded for that. You see what I'm saying? We're rewarded. We're brought out and said, we're the example. This is how you do it. This is how you're a man. And when I ask black men, and I do this is part of the workshop, but it's also in the book. I'll ask you, what is a man? What is a man?
Shit, I don't even know after the day. Like, I'm for me, is what society deems, you know what I'm saying? Like the expectations, the normal expectations. You take care of your wife, your woman,
so you would be a what? Like a protector, provider, what do you say?
A protector, provider.
Like that?
Yeah.
Some other.
The usual shit. I pay the bills. I make sure that if nothing happens to the women in my life. I walk on the curbside of the sidewalk. I'm on guard at all times. So.
Right.
But for me, listening is important too.
Right.
Okay. And I do think that and I'm working on it. But especially with my daughters, I'm probably better at it with them. But whatever they got to say, I'm going to listen to.
Right. And that's admirable and that's honorable. And what I want to say about the way you answered the question was just very normal. And the reason I asked that question is because that's usually what brothers say. The provider, protector are the first two that they say, take care of his family, like they say. This is what black men all over the country say, okay? So I think if nothing else, you are consistent with the consensus,
I'm a pretty regular guy.
Just to give you the list, and this is from the book, it's in the book. The first thing that says the protector, the second is the provider. These are like the most common things. I hear trustworthy, respectful, respectable, a leader, a boss, the head, always does what he says he'll do, runs his household. That's essentially in a nutshell what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what they say a man is. And so usually when I do this exercise, I'm doing it on like newsprint. So then I ask another question. My follow-up question is, and all I do is I look at the same thing. What is and I put a hyphen, black man.
Oh man,
this is what I am.
Trying to do all that shit with a foot on your damn neck.
Well, the deal is it's quiet when I ask that question. It's quiet. Because like you said, well, now I'm not even really sure after the... It's quiet.
Man.
And I let it be quiet. Because brothers are looking around the room, right? And so usually the older brother, one of the elders will say, black man is strong. And I put that down. Say, okay, go ahead. What else? Somebody else will be determined. Say, okay, I'll write that down. Somebody else, fearless. And that's where it'll get quiet again.
Yeah,
and I let it stay.
A lot of shit we scared of, man. We just don't want to admit it.
I let it sit. But check it out, though. So I asked the brothers, okay, fine, I get it. So let's look at the list. So we compared the list. And so I said, when I asked you what a man was, brother, they was rattling off like you, man, a protector, provider, blah, blah. But I asked what a black man was, and it was a different list.
Mm.
So I said, well, why? And according to what this says, ain't none of y'all in here, no man. what you see. Because that's how I start the Good Man Syndrome chapter off, because there ain't no universally understood definition and understanding of what a man is. It's very, very subjective. And it's whatever the black man is what the white man has allowed, is essentially what it is for us.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that doesn't sound very powerful coming out of the mouth, but it's a fact. Because, again, we're not self-determined and self-defined. Our thing is conditional. We get to do what we do so long as. See, that's how that works. So I just do that to show brothers that we are only what these people say we are and what they allow us to be, and that we know that there's a difference. Because the whole protector provider thing, that is a trope for the archetypical white male. Because black men aren't protecting who? Who are we protecting? Because the damn sure ain't black women. Okay, so see, there's that. Who are we providing for? If we can, it's ourselves. But the income for black men is about $25,000. So we ain't providing for a whole lot of folk with that. So see, those are ideologies that we get from our white daddy. We looking up at him, and this is what he does, and so we're saying we're like him. But our experience is not, because he defined us. See how none of that don't sound good or feel good, but it's all true.
No, it don't feel good at
it's
all.
It's all true. But it's all true. You know what I'm saying? But you didn't say, Brother Shaq, you lying.
No.
It was like, damn.
Yeah, I can't say, and it, and that just ties in. Like I get it now. Like how, like you gotta really peel back the onions. How whatever that saying is, you gotta really get deep within man to really resolve rape culture. And I think a lot of times, most of the time, we just spend so much time, ignoring that aspect. Like women wouldn't have to deal with the emotional effects and the physical effects of rape if we didn't do this shit.
Right. So why don't we just not do it?
Exactly. And how do we get to deconstructing the mechanisms that facilitate that?
Well, that's why I wrote the book.
And
it's only 145 pages.
Where do they get the book from?
So the book is available at truelovemovement.com. And if I guess I can send it to you in a text or something. I don't know if you can move the link or what have you, but it's truelovemovement.com, and then there's a specific link that gets you to the book. But it'll guide them to it if they're interested in it. It lays all of these things that we're talking about. It lays them out, man, in a beautiful way, so that we can actually have a common language around what we're talking about. Because when we focus on the result of or the impact of this culture, we still invisibilize all of the things that occurred before it. And see, that's the thing. This is not a matter of our bad thinking or our cognition. Like, man, you don't know no better. That's why you're raping. No, man. I mean, you have heard. There's a chapter. And if you would like me to read some from it, I don't know if that's part of your thing, but there is a chapter.
Yeah, by all means, go ahead.
Here, just so you can see kind of what I'm saying. This chapter is called Resentment, okay? And I'll just do a little bit into it. And he says, even as an evolving and well-intentioned, authentically good black man, I recognize in myself biases that are grouped among other street culture values and principles which are unflattering to speak about. Though glaringly true, they are unfortunately not so unique at all. When I visualize respect, the respect I deserve, and even the respect I offer, the most hypocritical and disturbing image comes to my mind. I see the respect all others show to the archetypical white man, and I recognize that is what I desire for myself. What I want to expect. I don't want nor expect to be checked, challenged, censored, or questioned typically. the first and last word should be mine to have. Now, though intellectually I know that for this to be my reality, others cannot experience it simultaneously. And I acknowledge how irrational and utterly dehumanizing that is for all involved. Now, if others happen to be black men like me, we have understood rules of how we engage one another. If these others are black men not like me, or black women, we may run into a problem. With all of this is a certain set of expectations on how sisters are socialized to engage. On an emotional level, any deviation from rape cultural norms is cause for at least some distress, because these emotional responses must run through both the filter of logic and the respectability before I utter anything else. Intellectually is where the internal struggle is. Brothers often share this debilitating plight with me once the stage is set, trust is established, and a non-judgmental way becomes clearer. The shame around accepting this as normal is maladaptive, but can definitely seem to feel right in the moment. Embedded deep within the American current and historical experience is an unmatched despise for the existence of those women and girls who today are identified as black. Seemingly on face value, at least, that statement sounds silly, right? Mm-hmm. Why would anyone, or even still everyone, have this profound disdain for those women and girls politically designated as black? Yes, I know not one of us would proudly say that in most spaces. I am not at all proud that the resentment rests in me too. I do recognize, however, that when that resentment reconnects with that same hateful spirit in other black people, including black women and girls, it is that which enables us to so freely speak ill of a sister who may have particular challenges or momentary struggles. And that's just a few paragraphs from that chapter. But the resentment chapter really talks about, we really look at and examine historically, what did, those women and girls who were today politically designated as black, what did they do? What did they do for us to despise them so much in the ways that we do? What did they actually do? So the chapter looks at that and uncovers to try to locate what that is. And that's just one example of the ways in which that, we're talking about it here.
Man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, and you say it's true, what did you say? True Love Movement.com. And what happened, like I said, the book literally came out 5 months ago today on February 13th. Of course, as we were talking about opening up, the Rona situation, of course, impacted all of us. And so what I did was, as folks from around the country were reading the book, and I'm shipping books because the post office is still open, I started in a private Facebook group with people who were reading the book, and they discussing it with one another, because what they were saying to me was so rich. But I'm an organizer. I wrote this book not to write a book. I wrote this book to shift the consciousness of our people, and that can only happen through organizing. So the book is the ways in which we can facilitate the conversation, but the actual work and associated works is how we use the book, which is what I'm deeply interested in, and that's kind of where we are right now. I wanted to give you this one other thing from the voice chapter, if that's all right. Okay.
Talks a little bit about
I just want to let people know
in
the bottom of the live stream, just some statistics about rape. But you really need to go get this book, Resolving Rape Culture. And if you're just now tuning in, please go back to the beginning and make sure that you catch every nugget, every gem that Brother Shaq has given us today. And he's gonna read us a little bit more from the book. I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead.
I don't know. No, thank you. This is your thing. I just want to do whatever's needed. But I wanted, this chapter is called The Voice. I wanted to offer this one. It says, as a small boy, I perceived the world in a manner that caused me to respond to grown people the way only an old soul could. My feelings and convictions about the ways in which I experienced things were perhaps too strong for such a young black boy child. I remember well. As a matter of fact, I do not recall a time period when I wasn't getting into trouble with some adult or some authority figure. Of course, there's nothing really so unusual about that, I suppose. What is relevant to the times is that being raised by two older black women, I found myself being chastised quite a bit by them. My grandmother seemed to have a sweet and loving way about how she said what she said. It was my mother, however, that was seemingly adversarial with me and particularly annoyed that I had arrived the way that I did. Mm-hmm. It would be later that she would explain how I was like my pa. I really didn't appreciate being corrected by her. I'm not suggesting I did not need correction. The way she responded to me, as far back as I could remember, was what didn't feel good to me. I expected something different from my mother. Now, older black men in the neighborhood didn't correct me so much. Again, not suggesting I did not need correction. It's just that was not the nature of our relationship, and I appreciated that. As you well know, it is a rough feeling time when you cannot do anything right. When they would overhear my mother scolding me from the front door as I played outside and both saw and heard the way I'd respond to her, they would offer words to console me. Fortunately, they were there to explain this phenomenon to me. Black women were never satisfied with anything, so there was really no pleasing them, is how it was broken down for small me. I was informed that most of the time, women just like to talk, to hear themselves talk, because ain't nobody else listening. Their collective advice was that if I did not want to hear her mouth, then I had better do what she said the first time. Though seemingly logical, emotionally, this was really hard to do, and not necessarily because what she asked of me was so unreasonable. I don't think we really liked each other at that point. Though I felt justified in it, I can recall not generally liking her all that much. She didn't embrace me the way that my grandmother did. Most of what she said to me was about something I should be doing, but apparently wasn't, or at least not doing it exactly as I should. Again, this kind of tension between an older black woman and her young and only son is likely not so unique. However, I didn't approve of the way she did things either. Though I didn't have parenting in my limited vocabulary early on, it was her style, or lack thereof, that didn't fit well with my spirit. Where was my daddy? Anyway, why did she run him off?
Hold on one second.
These were big questions.
I'm going to take this call because if I don't on Skype, it'll just hang up on them. So
no, please get it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got 7637.
We perfect.
Should be on the line with us. Can you hear me, brother? Brother Shaq?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. 7637, you are on the call. I can't hear you. I don't know if you are talking. I don't know what to say. I did answer the phone, and I do see the number.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens. And
yeah, it's just live. We'll be here for him.
Yeah, you know, it happens sometimes. Actually, Skype has been doing pretty good for us. And the only reason I didn't use Zoom is because that typically will automatically just go to the video. And in the event that somebody did call up and wanted to be anonymous, I didn't want that to be taken away, unbeknownst to them.
Yeah, that was thoughtful of you, man. And I know that the callers and potential callers appreciate, at least you thinking, considering, and folks just may not want to be seen but want to share anyway. So I appreciate that for sure.
No doubt, man. I try, and I know having done this type of show before, and it's like the last time we focused more on people being able to tell their stories. This time I kind of wanted to focus more on your book, and man, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue reading because I could go on forever, bro.
Oh no, I mean this is, you said we'd have a conversation, and so I welcome it. I'll just finish that little bit of it, man, and then we can, because it's just a few more sentences. I said, where was my daddy anyway? Why did she run him off? These were big questions that never really got answered truthfully. When I did get a response, it was suggested he was the neglectful one. And so just in that's just a couple of paragraphs, and I was talking about, you know, again, this is me in the tension and friction between me and my mother, and me not liking my mother and not really getting along with her and not respecting her, and really thinking that she's not a very good person and not a good woman, you know, couldn't keep a man, ran my daddy off and all of that. And I'm doing all of that as a very small child, you know, under 10 years old, and doing all of this as a result of the experience in a relationship that I had with her. But what I did not know is that she had been sexually violated throughout her childhood and as an adult, and was a survivor of domestic violence. And so I had no idea. And even if I had known intellectually, I'm not sure I understood what any of that meant. But I'm showing how what I'm talking about here is this fortifies my perception of her. And because of the way, in other words, she behaved the way that she did because of what she had experienced.
Right.
And she parented in a way that what she was trying to do is make sure I wasn't going to be like none of them people who had did her stuff.
Yeah. So she was,
she
was going to beat that behavior out of you. Not literally.
Correct. But I mean, but the thing about it, that was no respect to who I was as an individual. But I'm trying to say is these things were shaped by what she had experienced in her life. This is why I'm saying this has the multi-generational impact. No, I didn't do anything to my mother. It wasn't something that I did. She wasn't responding to what I did. She was responding to what they did. Mm-hmm. But that was having an impact on me, which then shapes how I see women. So then this last little part here, I just wanted to give you and say, it says, as I discovered through the course of my life and work with black men and boys, my childhood, adolescent, and even adult experiences with engaging black women and girls are not so unique. It is just folks do not usually discuss these kinds of things generally in a truthful manner, publicly or in so-called mixed company. I've heard so many things about what black women and girls generally say or do over the course of my life, and I'm sure that you've heard some familiar things yourself. In fact, some of my earliest memories are those of older black men talking about how troublesome and meddlesome black women are, how they like to be in your business and that they are nosy. I heard black women especially like to keep up mess and drama. I was told directly that I could not turn a hoe into a housewife and should never try. That some women are just unfit. They told me all black women were money hungry and scandalous. I got some good advice once to never buy something you needed a woman to help you pay for because she would always hold it over your head. The white man told me that across the board it was better to ask for forgiveness than permission. As a teenager, I heard that no really means yes. When I learned that I was supposed to tell girls everything but the truth, I was in single digits. They said, don't love them hoes. Women should be seen and not heard was popular too. Standard advice was to watch them hoes because they are watching your pockets. I was told to never buy a bitch shit. And if I did, it was only to get something in return. They said not to be no trick. And I was taught to keep my woman separate from other women. Have you heard these things about black women? Did you know that they plot and scheme to get money from black men? If a black woman cheats on you, you are done with her because she is no good. One thing for sure is that black women are never to be trusted because all they do is lie. So this is part of, again, the things that I was told about black women that was reinforced. You see how this is cultural?
Yeah, I would argue to say that most of us have been told that in one way, shape, those things in one way, shape, fashion, or form.
Isn't that incredible? We've never met. You and I have never met. We've never had one conversation, but we got the same messaging.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm.
That's
like,
pussy ain't got no face, and that's just so demeaning.
I know, but we got this.
She's nothing.
Right. She's her body part.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying to you, that you and I, is different as we seem or different as we were, with the fact that we never talked, we got the same messaging. This is why I assert that this is a culture. This is a culture. The culture just means a way of life. This is a culture. So this is how we live. We live with these ideologies because we get them when we're young, because they're passed to us from those people who have proven them to be true prior to. So they didn't come up with this neither. That's the other part of it. So this is not a matter of, man, them old people. No. They got it somewhere. None of this emanated from us. None of it. But here we are, and this is what makes us complicit in it. Though we don't intend and we don't want to. We don't know what we don't know. And much of what we do has an impact on the people that, we say we really love and care about. But we don't really know what that's all about. And the way that the society is set up, we don't have to be rewarded for being good men.
Man.
And so you see what I'm saying?
So we're not, I don't know that we do get rewarded for being good men. I think that even, as much as, I guess, I don't know, that occasional pair of socks on Father's Day. Although I must admit, my daughters, they ask me months in advance, and I've never really, I just can't bring myself to ask my kids for anything significant.
Well, I hear you. I hear you on that, on that kind of reward. But what I mean reward in terms of your social status or your social standing is being one of the good ones, the kind of man that takes care of his family, takes care of his children. A brother who's an elder of ours, he's been in this thing for a long time. I remember reading something he was saying or listening to something he was saying many years ago. And he said something that at that time, this was before the book, long before the book, I thought was so audacious, but I've finally lived long enough to know what he was talking about. He said, what has anyone ever done, particularly a black man, done to deserve black women having children for us? What? You know what I mean? He posed that question. Here's a man who been married, wife, children. But he really looked at it like, when I heard him, I'm like, what is he talking about? But I understand what he's talking about. Man, we have done absolutely nothing to deserve anything. Much of the anger and resentment that black women have towards black men, speaking just in general, is rooted in what I was talking about on the plantation. See, as far as they're concerned, we let this happen. Yeah. We let all of this happen.
And
we let this happen. Okay, but then we let this happen, and now today we want to turn around and say, look, I'm the man around here. See, what I say, go. You want to listen to me. You need to submit to me. See, the Bible say that. We do all of that, and they're looking at us like we clowns. Because we wasn't talking like that to the white boy. We don't talk like that to the white boy. But we want to be the white boy when we get home. And then we want to be respected for that. No, it's not flattering. And see, that's the other thing. Here we are, participating in this, and this ain't what we wanted to do. This is not something that you go sign up and say, I won't do that. And see, they know this already. They know these things. That's why they have the frustration and the rage that they have around it, because they can see it. We say, well, look, I do what I'm supposed to do. I take in blah, blah, and we say, so you need to leave me alone. You did? Because I do this. And, what we have done and what we are doing, man, is nothing. in comparison to what black women are doing and have done? Nothing. I'm not minimizing our contribution or our effort, but listen, there is no one busier than a black woman. Nowhere. No one busier than a black woman. Nowhere. Nowhere. Any given time, right? Nowhere. And so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, we ain't really doing nothing, bro.
And we don't want to have that conversation.
We ain't really doing it.
We really don't want to have that conversation, to be quite honest. As black men,
of course,
they're gonna call you a feminist loving so and so initially, you know. But you can't dispute.
Well, why, right?
Well, because it's the deflection, because people don't, you know.
No,
we don't want to look inside.
Well, yeah, but something that is become painfully honest or painfully clear to me is that black men in general, and again, I'm just talking about the general socialization. I'm not talking about you or me, but just with regard to the way we've been socialized, black men don't like black women. We don't like black women. This is not about being homosexual. We don't like them. We don't like them. That's what I've discovered. Black men don't like that. Nobody's going to stand up and say that. That's in the book. I wrote it, but I'm just saying that's not how we want to come. We want to say something else, but we don't like black women. So but the deal is this: that's not an opinion of mine. All we have to do is look at our behavior towards black women. Even the suggestion, like you were saying, if I am supporting the raising of the humanity of black women, I become a feminist loving. Like, so there's, see how
yep.
there's I'm supposed to be anti. This is why we struggle with it, bro. This is why the athletics chapter is important, because that whole notion about the women and men being opposite sexes and the whole power dynamic idea is that, you know, when, you know, if you're a man, you're supposed to take on, you know, this, you don't like women kind of thing. That's what you're supposed to not like women.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
crazy,
anti-woman.
Man.
You're anti-woman, and then so you come from a woman, you come out of a woman, but yet you don't like women. You don't honor and respect women as human beings. And then you get a notion that that's somehow not masculine. I mean, this is the confusion. This is the psychic confusion that the culture has bred. Black people have not chosen this. This is a result of racism and white supremacy. So I want to be clear about that. Black men, this is not to alienate black men, because this is not an anti-black man or black boy thing. Not at all. This is a total pro-black people situation here. But we do have to look at what's there courageously, and we also have to look at it together. Like some of the others, you know, men need to go over here and do that. Men need to listen. I agree that there are times for that. But what I've also learned about being a black man, I've been a black man for almost half a century. But I have learned. Okay, so I got a little time in it. I mean, there's people with more, but I ain't just get here yesterday.
Right.
But one, I'm not guessing about this stuff. But like, you know, anything that I can't or won't say in front of a black woman, I probably ain't got nothing to talk about. I mean, you got to think about it. What's the secret? What am I ashamed of? You know, that's what I'm saying. Like we have this, you know, this whole thing that we do, you know, like that. You see that good man syndrome, or better yet, like good man syndrome is a lot around some shadow work. A brother and I were working with this not long ago, and he had ended a marriage or a long-term relationship, and he was getting back out into the world. And so he had encountered somebody he knew, and she lived out of town, and they happened to connect, and she was married. So he's like, oh, well, you married? Well, I ain't gonna do nothing. But she insisted, so she would call him and video call him, and sometimes she wouldn't have no clothes on. He'd be like, hey, look, that ain't cool. I mean, your husband, I'm not doing that because I'm a good dude. I don't do no foolishness like that. But yet he would always accept her call, and she would keep calling. And one day he said, okay, you got to stop this because this ain't right. And she said, okay, and then she continued to do it. He continued to take her call. And so, you know, when he and I talked about it, he focused on his behavior, right? Mm-hmm. He was like, you know, that wasn't right. I know that wasn't right, man. That's why I stopped it, because I ain't that kind of person. And I said, but that's not really what the work is. The issue is you liked it. Mm-hmm. You desired that. That's the fact. You don't have to judge it. But that's what the shadow work is. So where do your desires come from? I'm not judging and not saying you shouldn't. But the deal is you have to really get to know the truth about yourself, because in the course of doing that, that's where you gain this compassion that you need for other people. Because that's the totality of your human experience as a black person here in America, that you have very good virtues and very good things that you may do, and you got some other stuff that you don't want nobody to know nothing about. But you want to purport that you're only that good person, that, you know, moral, you know, blah, blah. And that's just not true. That's not true, because racism, white supremacy, it has corrupted us all. Man. So we're not going to be in this environment without getting it on us. There's just no way.
And bro,
so we have to acknowledge that.
I'm going to have to end the show in about 5 minutes. I got to take my medicine and do my oh, man, I'm telling you, man, getting old sucks, bro.
Self-care ritual.
Oh, my God. But the alternative is even worse. But, man, I cannot possibly adequately thank you enough. And salute and always appreciation to the Queen Anifa. I think she already knows, like, she's been rocking with the show for a long time. And
she read the book too. That's how we got here.
She is an absolute, just a beautiful, beautiful soul and energy. So shout out to you, Queen.
Indeed. Indeed.
Before we wrap it up, one more time, how do they get the book? How much is the book? And I already put the website in both YouTube and Facebook.
Perfect, and thank you for that. So it's at truelovemovement.com. And it's $25, and if it's outside of New Orleans, it'll be whatever, you know, plus the shipping. But that link will give you all of that and calculates it. And I was going to say to folk, if they would like to follow me on Instagram, is at Resolving Rape Culture TLM, and on Facebook at Bro Shack, because I did many Rona readings. So there's several during the Rona. There's several readings from several chapters that are there. Folk want to get acquainted with the material beyond what we talked about today, because really we didn't really even get into that here today. But the book is intended to do that. It gives you a framework that you can discuss around, and that's the impact of the book. So I would just say, please, follow True Love Movement on Facebook and Instagram, and Resolving Rape Culture TLM on Instagram, TrueLoveMovement.com, and Brother Shack on Facebook.
Yeah, and I don't want to give away too much of the book, man. I want people to actually go out and buy the damn book too, bro. I don't want to get everything. Let me just go back to this episode. I can get everything. No, we ain't giving you everything. Go out and buy the book.
4 paragraphs off this episode, bro. That's it.
Exactly.
I mean,
intentionally.
Right. But this ain't a hustle for the book. This is just this. What this does, man. Like I said, I'm excited about you wanting the book and you getting the book and taking a look at it and talking to our sister, Anifa, about it in her experience with it, and then coming to this community of people who are reading it and have read it, and how they're working with it in their families and how it's transformative. That's what shifts the consciousness. That's what it's about. And it's done through me nurturing these relationships with you all. This ain't about let me sell this book to get this hustle right quick. This is about how do we shift the consciousness to organizing. Because it's not this, everything that's happening, we talked about, it ain't just happening at your house. It's happening at mine. It's happening all across America. So this is not a localized issue. This is a collectivized issue. So we can deal with it really from a communal perspective. Not as individuals trying to do good over here, but doing good here, but also increasing and expanding our influence throughout the rest of the community.
I'm not mad at that. Go buy the book. If this is if this is the conduit to you changing and your family changing, yes, I'm gonna hustle this book, bro. And unabashedly, without shame. Go buy the damn book if you out there. If you listen to us.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for your support, man, and the opportunity to engage you and you know the listeners and whoever may see the replay of this. It's an honor. Thank you.
It's been an honor and a privilege, bro. And we're definitely gonna have you back on. I do appreciate your time, your energy, and your wisdom, man. And don't be a stranger, bro. You know, like I think we're friends on the book now.
I'm gonna, and I saw that the next go round you're gonna have our brother Grandmaster Jay, right?
Yeah, we got him Thursday.
So I'm gonna try to check that out. You know, we do some local things here in New Orleans with the National African American Gun Association, part of the organizing work, and so I'm gonna be interested to check that one out too. So I won't be a stranger.
Man, New Orleans, man, is probably one of my favorite cities in the country that I've been to. Very.
Is that right?
Yeah, except for the and call me what you want, but I just couldn't go into the voodoo store. Never seen a whole ass voodoo store before, and it creeped me the hell out. Other than that, and that's just, you know, I know that's my hang-ups. I know I should be more, you know, in tune with shit. I'm not. It scared me. I'm sorry.
Let me tell you something. Listen, that's not your fault, man. That is part of the consequence of the white man that's in your mind that has told you about your people.
Yeah,
the lies.
Yep. And he's there big time when it comes to the goddamn voodoo.
Yeah, and he's persuasive.
I see the store, right, man. I'm like, whoa. It looks interesting as hell, but I can't risk it. I'm trying to. I don't know, man. Next time I go though, I may actually. You know, I've learned a lot since then, so my ignorance is not as bad, you know. But so next time,
some of that's more commercialized as well. But New Orleans is it's the most African city I think in America, and so you're going to get many things in New Orleans that you won't find on this continent.
Man,
and
beautiful,
and
beautiful.
The African traditional spiritual systems are very much so preserved here.
Yeah, absolutely enjoyed it.
Very much so.
We will be coming back.
So.
On that note, we're going to wrap it up. I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. And for those of you out there, don't forget to like the show, subscribe to wherever, whatever, man. Show some love, share the show. You know, this has been episode 7 of My Skin Is My Sin presents Intellectually Petty Radio. This is Jobs. Again, thank you. Appreciate you for the time, wisdom, and the gems. Brother Shaq, who is the author of Resolving Rape Culture. And we out of here, family. Peace.
Right on. Thank you.